So,
Bill and Karen Blumhorst.
All right. Well, I'm Rachel Barber, and I'm the administrator of the Auglaize County Historical Society.
Oh, all right. Okay.
And this is Michael Zwez, who's our techie of the day.
Oh.
And when Renee found out that the county was celebrating its 175th, she let us know that the board of DD was celebrating its 70th, and wanted to incorporate that anniversary into the bigger anniversary. We were very, very happy to do that. So one of the ways that we're involved, besides promotion, is that we're doing these sort of mini interviews here today during the open house with some people who come in, and just let them introduce themselves. So have you introduce yourselves and then tell us about your connection with the institution.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. I'm Karen Blumhorst.
And I'm Bill Blumhorst.
And our connection to the county board is very long-standing. Originally, our son, when he was born with some disabilities, and so he received speech therapy here and some early intervention services, which really helped him. And from that, we met several other parents that we became friends with. And I was originally a teacher, elementary teacher, and I had stayed home to stay with the children after we'd had them. And then after I had our son who had a disability, I was offered a position to substitute teach here. So I started substitute teaching in probably 1989. And then in 1990, I was offered a full-time position, and I taught transition students here for 2 years until I went on. Almost all of the students left a segregated setting, and we went to Wapakoneta High School with our classroom, and from there we were integrated into regular high school. And so then I taught there for 8 more years. And then during that time, though, when Bill became active with the board.
Karen was the coordinator for Special Olympics, and she said, "Why don't you coach basketball? Let's get the basketball going." So myself, John Hosnauer, and Mike Lynch, the three of us agreed to organize the basketball team. And we did that for 15 years. I'm not so sure the athletes had as much fun as the coaches, but we did have a great time doing it, and I think we had some great experiences as a team, and it was really fun to do. And it was really, we got to go to the summer games as a group, and I know our kids enjoyed going to the summer games as well. So
and then they
really
became
great experience.
They became very involved as well, and both of them did integrated sports, so soccer and bowling.
In fact, this past year, our daughter did golf.
Integrated golf,
yes.
Down with Miami County Board of DD. So they continue to be very involved with Special Olympics.
You mean as coach?
She was in it. She played. She played alongside with an integrated. It's when one person without a disability and one person with a disability play together. Yeah, so they got first place in Miami County.
Yeah, which was really neat to see.
Yeah, so they've kept up the legacy.
Yes.
So then after I
don't mean to interrupt, but why don't you tell us your son's name and when he was born?
Okay, it was Justin Blumhorst, and he was born in 1984.
84.
Our daughter
was 1981.
84.
Right.
Yes, and then our daughter was born in 81, and so yeah, he did a lot of speech. It's funny, his teacher's name was Allison Burning, and he couldn't remember Burning, but he did call her Mrs. Fire. Because burning. So that was really cute. Mm-hmm. So then after I left teaching, we opened a company called Capabilities. And for the last 25, 26 years, we've still been involved with the county board because a lot of the people that we help find jobs and teach jobs to and learn jobs, they also have services through the county board. So we are very involved with the SSA department, and it's always been a wonderful relationship with them, helping the people that we serve through Opportunities for Hands with Disabilities or through services, because we also have day habs. out in the community, and those folks are all through the county board here. So we've had a long-standing relationship and still continue to.
And shortly after we started that business, 2 years into it, we started driver's training for specializing working with people with disabilities. And we have worked with a lot of individuals from the local area, and now we actually do it across the state. We have 28 instructors across the state doing behind-the-wheel training, specializing in working with people with disabilities.
Mm-hmm. And oftentimes we have people that are referred to us from the county board to do that. So, and I think all the county boards have found that if they teach people to drive, they're independent, they can get to their jobs themselves, they can get to recreation themselves. Matter of fact, I was at the grocery store last night and I saw two ladies. One of them drove up, and two ladies who are definitely at All Glaze Industries. And they came up and I said, "Hey, what you guys doing here?" And they were going in to get some fried chicken for dinner, and one of the ladies was driving them.
Yep.
So she definitely, that really helps people with independence, that they can get around and do that type of thing. Otherwise, they have to wait for a paid provider to do that.
Mm-hmm. So what kind of services did your son receive from the Board of Developmental Disabilities?
He received summer speech therapy, and then ongoing speech then throughout the coming years.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Mm-hmm.
That was really all his disability. He has had seizures, epilepsy, and then he had a speech impediment because of it. And so that was what he needed at the time. And actually, he works for Capabilities as well, and is going to be, as Bill and I fade out and are not we're still going to be the owners, but we're not working full time. So our son and daughter are both taking over Capabilities. So that the wonderful thing about early intervention and speech therapy when you're young is if you catch it when it's early like that. And he had ongoing speech then for years, and the summer programs really did help. And so it really helped him to overcome what could have been a really tough situation for him.
Mm-hmm. And then when you started teaching here, did you have to have any extra training beyond what you had in,
Right. When I started here, I had a bachelor's degree in teaching in elementary education, and I did have to go back and finish and I got a master's degree in special education and got a transition certificate.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, that took me a couple years to get through, because we had children at home, and I would travel back and forth to Ohio State and Dayton to do that. No online training then.
And what would you say are the biggest differences between teaching a class that that is mostly or all people with developmental disabilities and a regular public school class?
Well, when I was in the public school, we would have 30 students, of course, and they were people without disabilities, and I could teach a lesson, and then they would go, usually we would give an assignment, and they would go about doing their assignments. And then I would teach a new assignment, and then they'd go about working on that assignment. When I came and moved into special education, it sounds like, oh, you only have 8 students in your class. Isn't that easy? And you know what? It's not any easier or harder. It's just different, because you have 8 people with very different needs, very different learning styles. Everyone learns differently. And so you teach each person individually how to do something, and there really is not a time when you are leaving people just to do an assignment by themselves, which is why you have a teacher's assistant as well. Again, you have 4 hands teaching 16 hands, and it really it's very labor intensive, but so rewarding. So yeah, you can't see that rewards in other things that you do.
To this day, you see a lot of the students that you had in your classroom, and to see where they've advanced to and different jobs that they're doing, it's very rewarding for Karen.
The first year I was here, it was transition students, 18 to 22-year-olds, and the first year I was here, they had 2 students that were going to graduate. And I said, oh, that's wonderful. Where are they going? And they said, they're going to go to the adult workshop. And that was, again, just in the 90s. And it was just at a time when supported employment and people working in the community was really coming to a head. And so, I had to research some things and find out what was possible. But the 2 people that were graduating that year, we got them jobs in the community. We helped them learn those jobs, and they kept those jobs for many years. One was at Pizza Hut here in New Bremen, and one was at downtown at the restaurant that Crown owns. And again, she kept that job for many years. And so it was really the start of when people were starting to work in the community and have job coaches. And so those first couple of years when I was here, that was the goal for me, was how can, and Sheltered Workshop is a wonderful, we ourselves opened a Sheltered Workshop again through the support of the county board. But for people who can work in the community, it's a wonderful opportunity. So that was my goal, was to have people working in the community when they left. When they graduated, we were transitioning out of school and into adult world.
Mm-hmm. And when you use the term transition students, is it a function of their age alone?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Typically, students that are seniors in high school are 18 years old, but public education is allowed for people until they're 22. So that typically you're out at age 18, so between 18 and 22 you have an opportunity then for the school to continue to work with you and help you leave high school. And the things that we taught were not math and reading and spelling. Instead of teaching math, we taught money skills, how to use your money in the restaurant. When I taught reading, we taught functional words, how to read a menu, how to know what you're buying at the grocery store, how to know how much things cost when you're going out and about. So it was functional things. And that was always so enjoyable to teach people and to see them now. I have somebody that we're good friends with, and their son has a head in class, and I taught him how to do laundry, how to iron clothes. And to this day, his parents tell us, when they get home, this guy's got their clothes washed and ironed and hung up and ready to go. Mm-hmm. So those skills that we taught when they were transitioning to adult, and it wasn't just transitioning to work, it was adult life. So it's skills that you really needed. Again, learning how to do a checkbook. You didn't have debit cards back then. You had to use your checkbooks and how to write checks and how to pay your bills. So it was all that type of thing that we were teaching.
And then when did things move over to Wapakoneta High School?
I taught here for 2 years. It was from 90, 91, 91, 92. And then I personally, there was another class, that the last class was still here after that for another year. But I went over to Wapak High School, and the Educational Service Center took over all of the students that were in the public school. So, and what was really good for me to see was, and for the teachers at Wapak High School to see as well, was that how you can integrate people into a regular classroom. So I had students in typing class, I had students in gym, I had students in art, and it was where the teachers that had students, yes, sometimes I sent my teacher assistant in, sometimes I went in to help, but it was such an enjoyable experience. It was great to see that students that didn't, the best thing that would happen, if I had a lot of students then come into my classroom to help tutor, and I would have groups of superintendents come through to look at the building, and they would come in and they would say, which students are yours? Isn't that wonderful that they didn't know? Mm-hmm. They didn't know which students were special needs, and they did, as opposed to people who didn't have disability. So I felt that was a real win when I was asked that.
And there were never any problems with bullying or anything like that at the school?
Never. I think it was a very clear message when in school that was no.
One thing to kind of answer to that a little bit, when we would go to the summer games, again, to the Special Olympics summer games, Jim, who was one of your students, he would go to he would be participating in an event, but some of his friends through high school who now lived in Columbus would actually come, and they would be cheering him on. And then after the game, a lot of times they would meet somewhere to, have a sandwich together and just, have a celebration of the events that he was involved in. So you could see the friendship meant a lot in the school.
It's relationships that they formed
Yeah,
while
it
they
was
were in
really
high school
great.
that they couldn't have formed if they had been in a segregated environment.
Mm-hmm. So tell us more about this basketball team. Now, there is no basketball team now.
Well, after we were doing it for 15 years, we decided it was time to turn it over. There were some parents that had some kids in that were still playing, and they took it over for, I believe, 5 or 6 years, and then now there is, from the way I understand, there is no basketball going right now, which is unfortunate.
Unfortunately, we got too busy with our life and
Yeah.
our business, and the gentlemen that were helping him, they were retired already, and they were getting tired. And it's not that they weren't enjoying it and having fun, but yes,
We would practice
nights a
usually 2 nights a week, and we had some cooperation from the St. Mary schools. We actually played our home games at the St. Mary schools, and we actually won 2 state championship titles. It wasn't about winning the game though. It was about the players in the game understanding, getting everybody involved as far as playing as a team. And it was really great to see some of the athletes that had much more talent. They would do their very best to give the person who had a hard time just throwing the ball up to the basket. But they made a big effort to get that person an opportunity to score a point. And when that person did score a point, the players knew to congratulate them, and that's how, to this day, I think some of those athletes, they learned what it was to be about a team and play as a team. And I always try to remind them, basketball is basketball, but after you're done playing basketball, you're going to have to work as a team wherever you work at, and you're going to carry these skills into the work area. So
you always tied it
really
back to work with them, and that was.
And it's neat to see a lot of them are successful at jobs too, and it's just great to see them. And to this day, some of them I see in the community, and they still call me coach. So it's neat.
And you haven't coached in
I haven't coached
15 years.
Yeah, it's been several years since.
Now that you're retiring,
well, there you go. Very good. Yeah.
And who were the opponents?
Neighboring counties: Mercer County, Shelby County, Allen County had team.
Kenton.
Hardin County, we would go there. Hancock County. We played Dark County. Yeah, we played multiple counties throughout the state.
And then there would be a tournament.
At the end of the year, there was a state tournament, and we went to. A lot of times, we would go to Bowling Green to start the tournament, and end up playing in Columbus. It was really.
How many times did you get first place in the state?
We did. We won two titles. Yes.
And what was the team name?
It's the Astros now. I don't know that we even had a name at the time.
We didn't really have it. We just called ourselves
All Glaze County.
And yeah. So.
Yeah, we always had uniforms that were either donated or we raised the money to get them, and then they had windsuits, and we had a Special Olympics. What it offered for not only the athletes but the families.
Yeah.
The families had an opportunity to really bond. The parents.
The summer games, we bonded great when we played basketball, but in the summer games when they had track and field, there was more families involved. And we would always go to the hotel together. We would have the swimming pool that we were at together. The families got as much out of it as the athletes, and the athletes really got a lot out of it. But the family bonding of just going there for the weekend, it was wonderful. And
so is there a winter version of the Special Olympics?
Yes.
There's the separate basketball. There's a separate one.
But the basketball tournament is separate from that.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. It is strictly a basketball tournament.
Summer has track and field, but it also has bowling with it.
Uh-huh.
So they combined things. It also had soccer. You guys coached soccer for a couple of years.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
As well, you had a soccer team.
Yeah.
And then what made you decide to start capabilities?
You know, it was that first year when I taught, when I was told that people were graduating and going to the sheltered workshop, and I said, you know, I think at that time people were asked, do you want to work? Now we expect that people are going to work. We ask, where are you going to work? And after I taught for a couple years, there were a lot of organizations, opportunities for Hands with Disabilities, that would come in and meet with my students and talk about working. And at that time, we didn't have people who helped them find jobs, like on Capabilities. There was no company like that when we first started. The teacher did it. I did it. And then I had to find a job coach. One of our, Ruth Campbell, who was a bus driver here, she had a child who was in my program, and I found her, and the Opportunities for Hands with Disabilities paid her to be a job coach. I had to find my own job coaches back then. And so it was just at the time when I was learning about these adult services, and there were very few companies like Capabilities, and I came home, but there were a few. There started to be a few towards the end of my years of teaching, and I always would come. Apparently, I came home one too many times and complained that I wasn't happy with the services that my students were receiving.
Karen was and again, sheltered workshops are great, but at the end of the year when Karen would talk to her students, hey, what's the next page? What are you going to do next? And when it was automatically said, I'm going to go to work at the sheltered workshop, what else would I do? Karen was frustrated with that. Not to saying that the sheltered work was not, it's needed, it's still needed.
It is.
But if a person had the ability and with the right placement and the right job coach, if that person can work in the community, why would you not try to do that? And so that's what...
It's that same integration that we got in school that we can get in the community.
Yeah.
You know, people really soar when they are with people that don't have disabilities.
And
so my frustration with it was these other groups that I had in, I had somebody lose a job because their coach didn't show up or they showed up late. And I said, never again. We can do better than this. So that's when we opened Capabilities, and took a lot of paperwork, and took 2 years before Bill was able to join us full time. But, you know, today, 26 years later, the county board still has people that refer to Capabilities, and either their waiver from the Medicaid waiver pays for it, or Opportunities for Hands with Disabilities pays for services. But we help people get jobs. Then we help them to learn those jobs. Then we help them to keep those jobs. And they can, through the support of the county board of DD, and this is something that was missing years ago. You might get somebody a job, but then they need support to keep that job. Now there are Medicaid waivers that pay for those services, so we keep in touch with people even after they're placed at jobs and they know their jobs. There are still things that come up with everybody's job that they need support, and so we can continue to go in month after month with somebody, year after year, because this is a birth to death program here, and that's what was missing before, and that essential piece of keeping people at jobs through job coaching support for the rest of their life.
So what would you say is, when you say if somebody has the ability to work out in the community, so what is that distinction? What is going to allow somebody to work out in the community?
Well, that's a great question, because it's different for everybody. What we all have things we can't do. We have to find the things that people can do, match them up with the right employer, have good supports for them, and then many people can work. There are people that may not want to work, and that's perfectly fine. That's not a law. There's no law that says anybody has to work. And there are some people who do have severe disabilities that would be difficult to find work for, but that doesn't mean it's impossible. So it's an individual situation. We do a lot of assessments for people to help them find out what you might be able to do in the community. We do job shadows. We do informational interviews. We help people really investigate what there is for a job and how it. And it's not how you can fit in. It's how the business can fit for you. So how can we make that business be able to include and this particular person with this particular skill set, with these particular interests? I used to think too that people I had some students who just love to work. I thought, well, it didn't make any difference where they worked. They were going to stay there. They like to work. That's not true. If people don't like what they're doing and don't like the place they're working, they will find a way to not work there for one way or another. And you do have to find what people like and what they are good at. Not everybody can work in a factory. Not everybody can be a greeter at Walmart. It's just different for every person.
One of the things with driver's training that we have noticed, a lot of students that when we start with the driver's training, there's students that get in the car and they'll say, well, which one's the accelerator, which one's the brake? We're literally starting at ground zero. But once they first of all, once they get their permit, they realize, oops, I never thought I'd be able to pass my permit test. People told me I couldn't get that permit. Well, they get that point. Then they get their driver's license. A lot of them will say, I never thought I would get my driver's license. I've been told I wouldn't get my driver's license. Well, then it's kind of a kickstart to the rest of their life. Maybe I can get this job that I would like to do, And what is great to see is somebody that's has struggled and lacks self-confidence or dealing with anxiety of, afraid to get out there and try something, and to see that person succeed and where they were at the beginning, and to see them being successful at a job, it's really priceless. And Karen got me involved in this driver's training that I used to work in a print shop for many years, loved what I did, but never got the rewards out of work as helping a person get that driver's license and seeing that person move forward in their life. That's what life is all about.
We have gotten much more as a couple, as a family, out of Auglaize County Board of DD, Special Olympics, our capabilities than we've ever given.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
And if you had to explain the impact of the Board of Developmental Disabilities to somebody who had never heard of it, what would you say? How would you explain it?
There's not many places in life where you can get support from birth to death. And this is what the Auglaize County Board of DD offers for people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. That support that you can get from the minute you're born to help you overcome any kind of challenges you have until you die. There's no other organization that offers that kind of services. It's, when you think about my tax dollars and where they're going to be going and who they're going to be supporting, I'd much rather see my money go right here.
Yep.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
I don't think so.
Oh.
Nope. You did good.
Okay. You did good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Nice to meet you.